ever felt, just trapped in that constant battle with food? You try all the diets, the exercise plans.
And sometimes it feels like nothing really works long term.
Exactly. It's this huge global challenge, obesity, and the old advice. Well, it doesn't always cut it, but what if the real key isn't just what we eat, but maybe how our brain handles it all?
Ah, now that's an interesting angle. And that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Right. We're looking deep into this book, El Cerebro Obeso by El Jimenez, The Obese Brain. The keys to fighting obesity are in the brain.
Yeah, the whole idea is that it's not just about your stomach grumbling or stepping on the scale. It's actually our minds, our brains that are really calling the shots.
Think about it. Have you ever eaten when you weren't actually hungry? Like really physically hungry?
Or, felt that almost magnetic pull towards certain foods. Like you just have to have them.
Totally. Jimenez suggests the answers, or at least a big part of them, are right there, inside our heads.
So our mission today is basically to try and unravel that. How does the brain control appetite? And crucially, why does it sometimes feel like our own minds are working against our goals to eat healthy?
And Jimenez is a great guide for this. A chemist, a science communicator, really knows his stuff on nutrition.
And he brings together neuroscience, psychology, endocrinology. It's a much richer picture than just, have more willpower.
Okay, so let's start with that core idea. The brain is the conductor.
That's the central argument. Forget obsessing over every single calorie for a second or feeling guilty. The book says we need to understand how our brain influences, everything. Appetite, enjoyment of food, those choices we make.
Makes sense. So how does it work? What parts of the brain are we talking about?
Well, there are specific areas geared towards managing our energy balance. Think of the hypothalamus, deep inside. It's kind of like a sophisticated thermostat.
A thermostat? How so?
It's constantly checking if we need more fuel or if we've had enough. It regulates that basic feeling of hunger or fullness.
Okay, thermostat. Got it. What else?
Then you've got the brainstem. That coordinates the really fundamental signals like, I'm hungry now, or okay, stop eating. Very basic stuff.
Right. But eating isn't always just basic fuel, is it? Sometimes it feels, emotional.
Ah, exactly. That brings us to the limbic regions. These are the parts tied to emotions, pleasure, reward.
The feel-good parts.
Precisely. They massively influence how much we enjoy that delicious meal or why we crave that specific chocolate bar. It shows we eat for more than just survival. We're seeking that reward, that little spark of pleasure.
Which definitely explains a lot. And then there are the hormones, aren't there? The messengers buzzing around sometimes feels like they give you a bottomless pit.
Oh, absolutely. Jimenez really highlights hormones like leptin and ghrelin. They're like critical chemical messengers.
Leptin and ghrelin. Okay, refresh my memory.
So leptin is made by our fat cells. Think of it as a signal saying, hey, brain, energy stores are good. We're full. You can ease up on the eating.
Right, the I'm full signal.
Exactly. And ghrelin, that's released mainly by the stomach when it's empty. It's basically shouting, feed me, time to eat, the I'm hungry signal.
Okay, so full signal, hungry signal, when they're balanced.
When they're in sync, we generally eat appropriately. We feel hungry, we eat, we feel full, we stop. Simple, right?
Sounds simple, but I guess it gets complicated.
That's where the problems often start, especially with obesity. These communication lines can get, crossed. Muddled.
How so? What happens?
You might end up feeling hungry almost all the time. Or maybe you eat a really big meal, but that full signal just doesn't quite register properly. You don't feel satisfied.
So the thermostat is kind of broken, like you said earlier.
Pretty much. That sophisticated feedback loop isn't working as it should. The brain isn't getting the right messages or isn't interpreting them correctly. That's a key neurological point Jimenez makes.
This brings up something I've wondered about. This idea of food addiction. Does the book go there? Is it really like being addicted to, say, drugs?
It definitely explores that, yeah. It's a pretty provocative part of the book.
Because some foods just feel impossible to resist sometimes.
Well, Jimenez explains how certain foods, usually the ones high in sugar, fat, salt, or often a combination, can activate the brain's reward system.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker.
Uh-huh.
It's the same system that gets triggered by addictive substances. Nicotine, alcohol, other drugs.
Wow. So it's hitting the same pleasure buttons in the brain.
That's the idea. Now, is it exactly the same as substance addiction? That's still debated in the scientific community. Some researchers point out differences, social factors, psychological aspects around food.
Right. It's really not a perfect one-to-one comparison.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But Jimenez's point is powerful. These hyperpalatable foods have a really strong effect on our brain's reward pathways. It helps explain why resisting them feels like such a battle.
So that feeling when you want to just demolish a whole bag of chips, even if you're not starving.
Yeah.
It's not just being weak-willed or greedy.
Exactly. Jimenez argues it's more of a biological, neurological response. Your brain is seeking that intense hit of pleasure these foods provide. It's wired to do that, in a way.
Okay, so our brains are seeking rewards. But then there's the world around us, right? It feels like we're constantly bombarded.
Oh, absolutely. The environment is huge.
Yep.
Jimenez talks a lot about how food marketing and the sheer availability of certain foods manipulate our minds.
How do they do that?
Think about it. Nonstop advertising with juicy burgers and fizzy drinks. Supermarkets with brightly colored packaging screaming for attention. Fast food on every corner.
Yeah, it's hard to escape.
And it's all designed, often very cleverly, to exploit those brain responses we just talked about, to tap into that reward system.
Like seeing an ad and suddenly craving that exact thing. I've definitely done that.
We all have. And it's not an accident. Those are carefully crafted stimuli meant to hook us, to make those products seem almost irresistible on a subconscious level.
Okay, this sounds a bit bleak. Like we're just puppets of our brains and advertising. Is there any good news?
Yes, definitely. That's the hopeful message in the book. We're not doomed to just follow every impulse.
Phew. Okay, so what can we do? Can we actually, reprogram our brains?
That's the term Jimenez uses, essentially. The book dives into strategies to train our minds, things like improving impulse control.
How do you do that?
Well, it involves becoming more aware of the triggers, pausing before acting, but also managing stress. Stress is a massive trigger for emotional eating for so many people.
Ah, yes. Stress eating. Definitely relatable.
So, by understanding why our brain pushes us towards certain foods, especially under stress or when faced with temptation.
We get some power back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It empowers you to make more conscious choices. It shifts from feeling guilty to understanding the underlying mechanics.
That feels like a key difference from a lot of other weight loss advice out there.
It really is. What makes this book stand out is that it moves beyond that simplistic, often blaming message of just eat less, move more.
Which often doesn't work or feels impossible.
Right. Jimenez frames obesity as a complex issue. It has biological roots, environmental triggers. It's not just about individual failure.
And he makes the science understandable, because neuroscience can get pretty technical.
He does a great job of translating concepts like neural networks and hormone signaling into ideas that, actually make sense to a non-scientist. And it's not just theory. It feels like a starting point for changing your relationship with food.
Okay, but to be balanced, are there any limitations? Is the brain everything?
Good point. And the book implicitly acknowledges this, I think. While focusing on the brain is incredibly valuable and maybe overlooked, it's not the only factor.
So exercise still matters. Other lifestyle things.
Absolutely. Physical activity, sleep, overall lifestyle, they're still crucial. You can't just think your way thin, right? It needs an integrated approach.
Yeah.
Understand the brain and build healthy habits.
Right. It's a piece of the puzzle, maybe a really big piece, but not the whole picture.
Exactly. It gives you understanding and tools, but you still need to apply them alongside other healthy practices.
Okay, so let's make this really practical. For someone listening right now, what are some key takeaways they could apply, today, based on these ideas?
Okay, first big one. Really try to listen to your body. Before you eat, pause. Ask yourself, is this actual physical hunger? Or is it maybe boredom, stress, an emotional craving?
Just taking that pause, giving the brain a second to catch up.
Yeah, let those signals actually process. Don't just react instantly. Second, be aware of those environmental traps we talked about.
The marketing, the availability.
Right? You can actively try to reduce temptation. Maybe don't keep the junk food right there on the counter. Plan meals ahead of time so you're less likely to grab something impulsive when you're hungry.
Sort of engineering your environment to support you, not fight against you.
Precisely. Make the healthy choice the easy choice, as much as possible.
Makes sense. What else?
Find pleasure elsewhere. Remember the reward system. It doesn't only respond to food.
Right. Like finding other things that feel good.
Exactly. Music, hobbies, spending time with people you like, going for a walk, learning something new. Anything that gives you that hit of satisfaction or enjoyment in a healthy way.
So you're not solely relying on food for that feeling.
You're diversifying your pleasure portfolio, you could say. And finally, and this is crucial, be patient with yourself.
Because change is hard.
It's gradual. Understanding your impulses is the first step, not just trying to willpower them away. Knowing why you feel a certain craving can actually make it easier to manage over time without beating yourself up about it.
Okay, so summing up, El Cerebro Obeso really offers this fresh perspective on weight and health. It puts the brain front and center in how we navigate this world full of, well, food temptations.
Exactly. It's arguing that it's not just about the simple math of calories in, calories out. It's about the complex ways our brains interpret signals, seek reward, and respond to the environment.
So for everyone listening, have you stopped to think about how much your brain might be shaping your eating habits, maybe more than you realized?
Yeah, it's worth reflecting on these ideas. How might this brain-focused view apply to your own experiences with food?
And maybe a final thought to chew on.
Go for it.
Think about one specific time today, or maybe yesterday, where you felt a really strong craving for something. Instead of just giving in or feeling bad, try to pause for just a moment. Ask yourself, beyond physical hunger, what else might my brain be looking for right now? What's driving that desire?
That little moment of introspection, it could be the start of seeing things differently. A really powerful first step.